Hi,
Hi.
happy July 13th on our Labor of Love, episode 34.
Can't believe it's the middle of July.
I know. Oh my
Were we
gosh.
just anticipating the 4th, just like yesterday?
Yeah, they said that things aren't going as fast once they closed down CERN, but I didn't even really realize that. But to me, it's still going by so quickly.
Yeah, yeah. I actually have taken about a 2-week break from,
Oh,
except for our podcast. I haven't watched anything. It was actually, it was just getting, there was just so much, it got overwhelming. And I just decided to, I had a friend that came into town over the July 4th holidays, and that kind of started the, okay, you know, step away. And then we just
hmm.
had such a great time just hanging out and,
Oh,
enjoying, just enjoying the holiday, like, I don't want to say normies, but yeah, just like regular everyday people, without having all of this anticipation of what does this mean? What does that mean? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? And I just kind of extended it, and I'm kind of still in that zone, and it's been good. It's been good. I think it's
nice.
probably a good thing for everybody to do. Step back a little bit.
Yeah, and exactly. I agree, and I think people are finding it now to refill your cup, kind of just to step away a little bit and enjoy beautiful days and enjoy the outside because I think that's our preview of what's to come. Because even though I think we are, as time goes on, going to be spending a lot of time with our neighbors and people who are going to be wanting to know more information, that we know. I think we just are going to want to get back to nature and to people and this all of this is just gearing us up, getting us ready, don't you think?
Yeah, and I met some people in the beach community here, and I got to spend some time with them, just hanging out yesterday because it was a beautiful day. And it's just that what I've seen them, talk to them a little bit, and then you do more and more, and then I got to spend more time with them, and they're like us.
Oh, wow.
Yes, not not Q, but everything else.
Wow, that's nice.
And come to find out they're like, "Oh, there's a lot of people around us that we hang out with that are of the same mindset." So that gave me a lot of hope. I was like,
Excellent.
"Yes."
Yes, that's so good to hear. Well, as we do on this show, we often bring on people who are trying to make a difference um, in this, and it always refills our cup, doesn't it? And the people that watch. And Bruce, I've interviewed Bruce on the Truth Teller Tales series, and I can't wait to spend time with him tonight because not only is he a warrior for truth, and a real warrior, but his health journey has taken him on, I mean, such a journey that has taken him to the brink, and he has been able to get himself out of it, and he has pulled it all out within him. He's really equipped himself with knowledge and everything he needs, with God leading the way um, to to get him to where he is now, so he can now take all that he's learned and help and share it with other people. So I just really admire him so much. So I'm just super excited to bring him on. So let's bring him on. Hi, Bruce.
Hello, how are you?
Welcome.
Yeah, really great. First, Bruce, I first knew of you when I watched Lewis Herms and all of his tours and everything that he did. You were always right there, and and just working so hard, and the telethons and the tours and everything, and that you and your wife were both so dedicated to his journey as well. Um, First, tell us a little bit about that time, because I think people who know you from that as well.
Well, I mean, it was kind of the how things worked out for me, myself, and my wife to get hooked up. It's really a story of divine connections, really. Because I started, podcasting stuff, or actually it was just before COVID, right around COVID. I started live streaming the county commission meetings and all the protests that we were doing at the schools when they were trying to put masks on the kids and all that stuff. And then I became friends with Kirsten W., who's she's fantastic, and I believe that the enemy took her out. That's another story in itself. A whole show could probably be dedicated to that. But it was because of her friendship, and then I went to one of her events locally because she lived not far from me, and I was live streaming, recording things for her, and I met somebody there who lived really close to me, Gina. And then she was connected helping Lewis with the truth tours. And that's how everything kind of started. They invited me to speak at because I lived near Tampa, and they invited me to speak. It was near Tampa or Sarasota on Truth Tour 1 to speak there. And I had plans to be out of town, couldn't make that one. A couple weeks later, they were I got a call from Gina. Hey, we got an opening. Do you want to come and speak at the Fort Wayne, Indiana Truth Tour event? So I took about 3 seconds for me to think about it and ask what. So we jumped in the car and drove 14, 15. I think it was it's a 14-hour drive, but with gas and stops, took us 18 hours I think to get there, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Spoke there, it was fantastic. Met Lewis for the first time, his wife, Jason Q was there, a couple other people. And so it was my first time speaking in front of a crowd, and I was, kind of freaked out a little bit by it.
Yeah.
But it was good. And then they wanted us to continue on with them. Hey, just, put everything else aside. Just come on with us for the rest of the tour. And I was like, I would love to, but we had other obligations we had to get cleared up. And so we going back home. But then they invited us to come out to the Truth Tour 1 grand finale, which was in Las Vegas. And so we flew out for that. And every Truth Tour event or Unity Tour event since then I have been on. All of Truth Tour 2, 3, and 4. Those were like boot camps we did in California, and we did one in Florida, just within that state. And then the most recent thing was the Unity Tour, where Lewis and myself and Andrew were, jumped in Esther, the old RV, and that's a story in itself. But we, drove around the country. We're doing, close to 50 events or something in 30 days. We had planned out.
Crazy.
And then that Hurricane Helene happened, in Florida, and just decimated, the South Carolina area and, that region, Tennessee, all around there. And so Lewis got a message, said, hey, we got to stop this tour. We had like 10 stops left. We were about to go up into New England area. And we were I think we were in Ohio or maybe Pennsylvania at that point. And he said, no, we need to go back home, go down to Florida. Or he wanted to go to South Carolina, but it was just too devastated roads. You couldn't get in and out at that point. So we came down to Florida in our backyard here, and it was just horrible. I've lived here in, Tampa area, Pinellas County for 40 plus years. Hurricanes are, the typical Florida man hurricane thing that they do all the fear porn on the news, it's going to be this and that category, blah, blah, blah. The typical, unless it's a verified category 5, I don't even want to hear about it. Right. It's just going to be a little bit of wind and rain. But this one was different. There was people out on the beaches, even Michael Jaco's house. He at that time lived on the beach, and every single house, had 4 foot of water in there. And we were down there with the whole crew helping people clean out their stuff. And Lewis got all these truckloads of donations of all kinds of different stuff that we were, giving out, handing out, and, helping people as much as we could. So, that's the whole Truth Tour thing. Over 100 events in like a year and a half, 2 years tops.
Yeah, that was such a whirlwind. But, and the people, though, around him were so dedicated to the truth and to him and the message. And, you also all really put up with a lot of negativity, people trolling. I mean, you really had to have some strength within you to not let that bug you. And I guess, having Lewis, watching him, um, how he took it so well. But it was, he got hit hard. You all did.
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, and it was because it was more of a mission than it was, something to do. We were out there trying to wake people up and get people, the truth as we knew it, information, and try to mobilize them, get them, excited about doing something, to try to save our country. Because we knew, at that point, after COVID, we were dealing with the as my friend Jack calls them, Joey bribes. The fake president that we had lived 4 years through. We were all right in the midst of all that stuff, and it was,
Yeah.
we were fueled on lots of caffeine and patriotism.
So true. Caffeine and patriotism. Yeah. I mean, because that was crazy times, but you really just went all in and gave it your all. And so, during that period, Bruce, I know we're going to be talking about so many things tonight, but during that period, and people can go back also and watch your life story on Truth Teller Tales 68. But I want to at least briefly go over some of the things that you went through with your heart, and then dive more deeply into some things that were happening to you currently that had to do with your thyroid and things, correct?
Yep, yep.
Yes.
So yeah, the Reader's Digest version is 2004. Was 36 years old. I had what they call a MI, myocardial infarction. I had a major heart attack, 100% blockage of the LAD, the left anterior descending artery. That's the one they call the widowmaker. And prior to that, on my mom and dad's side, both had family history. On my mom's side, they had the sudden death thing where you just have major heart attack, you go to sleep and don't wake up type stuff, a type of one and done, situation. And then on my dad's side, I call it, they had the plumbing issues where you would get blockages and, bypass surgery, stents, the whole thing. So I had it, from what they say, I have since moved on from that belief, that I was, had this family history and was genetically predisposed to the heart condition. And I was, the medical system, essentially said, well, you're doomed. You're going to have to live with this for the rest of
Right.
your life. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And so 2004 had the heart attack. Because of my family history, 2006, they put a pacemaker defibrillator inside me. 2009, I had a single bypass surgery. 2012 was supposed to be a routine upgrade of the pacemaker because the battery was getting low. So but they screwed that up. That took three surgeries in 2012. I nearly died then. Got an infection real bad around the device after they put it in. What they call laser lead extractions and a bunch of stuff. So so they ended up, getting me fixed.
But before you go on, was that the one when your pacemaker was literally zapping you from the inside?
Yep. That was exactly it. So at that time had been self-employed. I have not had a job since 2004, working as a real estate agent, had other businesses and different things going on. So I didn't have insurance. So I was waiting for the charity paperwork for the hospital to have this surgery to have my pacemaker replaced. Well, I woke up in the middle of the night. It was around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I got the crap shocked out of me. Blood sitting me up in bed. I'm assessing myself. I feel fine. I don't, what's going on. And then a couple of minutes later, bam, it hits me again. What's going on? What's going on? It hit me again. We call, 911. They all come, and it's bam, bam, bam. It keeps hitting me. Ended up hitting me like 15 or 16 times in an hour. And then last time it hit me was I was in the emergency room. It blasted me again, and I yelled out, "Said, come turn this thing off before it freaking kills me." Because I felt fine. And come to find out, one of the leads had fractured, broken, and it was firing and shocking me erroneously. It was a malfunction of epic proportions.
Yeah.
And so, that was 2012. Between 2012 and the next big fiasco, seemed like every 6 months or a year, I'd have to go in and have a rotor job, put a stent in. I'd have blockages, nothing really, major between 2012, 2018. But 2018, that was the real wake up for me. I ended up having 7 surgeries in 6 months, which started out as, again, a routine upgrade of the pacemaker because the battery was low. I ended up 4 surgeries to get the thing fixed, the pacemaker thing. And then I ended up having a perforation in the colon, had an ileostomy. I had a bag for 2 months while the tailpipe was disconnected and healing.
Oh,
Ended up with an incisional hernia. It was just horrible. And
didn't you say that time was pretty much your lowest?
Very much so, because the medical stuff, it just beats you down. I was mentally, I was always a glass half full, hey, if there's a problem, we can fix it type of guy.
Yeah.
But, the health stuff had beaten me down, all these surgeries, laying on the couch with this bag that I had, now I have super crazy empathy and compassion for the people who have to live with that, all the time. But it took every ounce of everything in my being to get from the couch to the bathroom, to go to the bathroom. And that was it was a small 1-bedroom condo we were living in. So it was maybe, 20, 30 feet, but it took everything I had to go do that. I was like, this is freaking crazy. I can't live like this. I wouldn't say I was suicidal, but I was ready. I was done. I just said, beat me down. I could have played the victim, woe is me, I got this and that and the other. And I was like, no, F that. We're going to figure this thing out. And it was right about that time, things, were end of 18, 19, the campaign thing was kicking off for the 2020 stuff. And, so I was, got involved in all of that. And then it was the 2020 situation, that really kind of woke me up, the stolen deal. And so I started just like everybody else, woke up on, what was it, the 4th of November and wondered what the heck just happened.
Yeah.
And start searching, start digging, start looking. Because I had already been researching stuff about my health, and I was starting to pull myself off of some of these meds. I was on like 10 different cardiac meds, and I had bought into what they were selling me, and it was about that time still a spiritual aspect of my awakening started to happen, and I realized that hey, this has got to end with me. So I'm breaking the generational curse of heart situations, and my kids and my grandkids are not going to have to suffer this. I'm the last one. And so I've already made that mind. It's already done in my head. It's a done deal. I just got to continue walking it out. And then my where I am now is I just didn't wake up one day and all of a sudden say, hey, I'm going to fix all this. It's been a process, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I started 2004, I was buying into what they were selling me. I identified as that heart patient, right? This is my heart condition. This is the way I'm always going to be. Stuck taking these meds that they want to shove down your throat all the time, and constant doctor appointments, and every few years having to go in and get a new device and blah blah blah. So I bought into it. The stories that I was telling myself, I had taught. That's part of what my bigger mission is now, and helping people see and realize. That's why I'm very open and honest about my entire situation, what I've been through, where it's got me, and then where I am now is all due to the Unleashing Excellence framework that I believe God gave me in 2023 that I'm using to get myself out of this hole and change who I am. Change my identity, how I think. I'm just a guy that's dealing with a heart situation. I don't have a heart condition. I don't have, it's not a terminal situation. It's a temporary thing. I just need to figure it out.
Yeah. So it's amazing, Bruce, how, you hear it over and over again from different sources. It's about It's all about your mind and changing your perspective, changing your mind. And you said a couple of key things. You do from even when you were little, you heard about the heart issues on both sides of your family, and then you became the heart patient, and that was your identity,
Yep.
right? And that puts you in a state of mind, a particular state of mind that's all we think it's normal, but we're so used to it, but it's such a psyop too.
It really is. And it's, I am in the process of proving it, because a lot of times we hear these stories, about, people, changing just their, mind over matter. And there is truth in that, but they're not giving you the whole picture. And that's one of
Yeah,
the things also I've realized, because I've always been involved in a lot of, personal development, leadership stuff, sales type things. And so you hear about all these, the old school book, Think and Grow Rich, or The Power of Positive Thinking. All those things are true, but they only give you a piece of the puzzle. They don't. You got to have the whole puzzle to be able to put it all together. And then when you do, the light bulb goes on, and you can begin to walk in that stuff. But just by sitting in front of a mirror and saying 100 I am affirmations isn't going to change nothing. It'll help, but
right.
until you get to a point to where, okay, my mind is here, but then you got to get up and take some action.
Yes.
And I reference back to the story in the Bible, Moses, standing there, got the Egyptians on his butt, right? The Red Sea in front of him. Oh crap! He could have just folded. Oh shit, we're caught. It's over. But no, he did something.
Right.
He raised that staff. Had he
Yes.
not done that, it'd be a completely different story. But the whole idea behind that story is knowing what you're worth, what you are, and then taking some action to make it happen. Had he not raised that staff, it would have been over.
Bruce, because we've just finished July 4th, and I've talked about this with Tricia. I've been digging into more the founding fathers, and I was looking at letters between John Adams and Abigail Adams, and thinking, if you think of the colossal, how did this teeny tiny group of people think that they actually could become independent from Great Britain? I mean, how? It just seems like it would be an impossibility. And, but when God is at the helm, things happen, and things are made possible. And I do believe this is happening to all of us as a collective and individually right now in history. And that's why I'm just so excited, to hear individual stories like yours, but then see that collectively we could actually come out of this monstrosity with which we're living in this world, and turning a ship around that is ginormous. But
It is.
Tricia, we've had this conversation before, haven't we?
Yeah. I'm probably looking like I'm a little lost in thought, because my father was told that he had cardiomyopathy, and ended up having to have a defibrillator put in, along with, it must have been 12 different drugs that they had him on. And I'm trying to think back now, because of all the names, knowing what we know now versus, he's since passed. He died in 2013. So this is before then. And Bruce, a similar situation happened to him with the defibrillator. It kept shocking him. And it was actually when he was in the swimming pool, and he didn't have steps in the pool. They had a ladder, and he and my mom were in the pool, and it started to shock him. And then it started to do it again. And he realized, I need to get out of this pool, but he kept getting like it would knock him, like it incapacitated him. I guess that's the right word. So and so there was this real fear of being in the water, and my mom being helpless because she wasn't strong enough to get him out. And so anyways, they made it out, got to the emergency room, called the drug rep and everything. And of course, they send, the sales rep in, and the Medtronic is doing the readout. And then it happened again when he was leaning over to pull the cleaning equipment out of the pool. And so they had said that they think there must have been some kind of electrical current coming through maybe the lighting system because they had a lighting, lights in the pool. Never got to the bottom of it, called out an electrician. Electrician said everything was fine. So never did figure out exactly what it was, but my dad never went near that pool again.
I would bet money had nothing to do with the pool. It was, probably some other situation. Maybe they, wire was loose or something. Who knows back then. But that's part of the problem. That I found in my dealings over 22 years with the allopathic medical system, and I shifted. I started off buying into that stuff. And then I shifted into the rebel phase, right? This was 1820 COVID stuff. Got to go to a doctor's appointment, wear a mask. I was like, no, fork you. I'm not going to wear no mask, right? And then I actually, I got to find it. There's got to be video somewhere or pictures. But I had a cardiologist appointment, and I was just being a jerk, because I was in this rebel phase of screw the doctors. They don't know squat. I'm in control of my own stuff. But I really didn't know anything.
Right.
I was just being a rebel. And so I got one of those Tyvek painting suits, the head to toe body thing, looks like a hazmat suit. And I had the mask, double goggles, all this stuff, gloves. I roll into the cardiologist appointment looking like I'm a guy from the hazmat suit, hazmat team or something. And I'm here for my appointment, and you should have seen the eyeballs were just like massive. But I was making fun of them. And so after I got to find.
I bet half of them felt safe after you did that. That's how bad off people were. They're like, oh, great idea.
And I'm just sitting here with this, this tiny, they're thinking, I just got this tiny little thing, and this guy's got a whole full bodysuit on. But it was after that I actually came across the face diapers that were mesh, and I found one that had a camo print on it. When I wore it, looked like a regular mask, but hold it up, man, it was just like a screen on your window. It was doing nothing. So, but nobody told me as long as you looked like you had a face diaper on, you were being compliant. Yeah. So they didn't say squadoosh. We all know. That trying to stop a virus is one of those, even says on the box of those little blue things, it's not made for stopping or transfer. All it does is keep you from spitting on other people.
Right.
Trying to stop a virus with that thing is like trying to, stop a mosquito coming in your yard with a chain link fence. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. So, so that was the rebel phase. I wasn't taking my med. I was just being rebellious. I didn't know, I didn't have the knowledge. And that's the next phase of my evolution, I guess you can say, as a patient. But over the last couple of years, for 3-ish probably, since the February 23, when I got this UE framework, I started replacing the stories. I started taking the mask off of not a heart patient, right? We all wear these masks, these identities, and some of them do serve a purpose, right? Because part of my story, I was married when I was 16. So I jumped from my mom's arms into my wife's arms. I didn't know nothing. So immediately I was thrown into I had to wear the mask of a father. I had to wear the mask of a husband. I had to wear the mask of a provider. And those all served a purpose. And the masks become detrimental when you start leaning on those, and the stories that you tell yourself keep you from being, moving on, right? They're that can become an excuse. So, but then I moved into phase 2, which is I had to learn some stuff. Yeah. Right. I had to learn, I had learned about, the medicines and what they did and what they didn't do, and my body and some of the terminology that was going on. I could consider myself a quasi or unlicensed cardiologist because of all the stuff that I read. And still fighting with my doctors about me taking meds or not taking meds. What really this past 6 months, everything is just kind of came into view, if you will, the light came on, or I started walking in this knowledge and started digging deeper. And I started having some issues earlier this year that were caused by supplements, and that were, for a normal person, a normal healthy cardiovascular system or whatever, wouldn't be an issue. But because of the substrate that I have and the scar tissue that's there from that 2004 deal, these supplements had a negative effect, and I started having these VT, ventricular tachycardia episodes. And if I did not have my pacemaker defibrillator, I would not be sitting here talking to you, because those are the types of rhythms that kill people.
Wow.
So if you don't have, I had this built-in paramedic here. I didn't get shocked through all that, but I could feel what they call ATP, arrhythmia termination pacing. I think that's what it's called. You get the pacemaker. What it does, it monitors, and it senses that VT rhythm, where I go from just sitting normal here, 60, 70 beats a minute, and then all of a sudden that the electrical signal hits that scar tissue and gets all freaked out. And I go from 60, 70 beats a minute to 180 to 200 beats a minute right freaking now. And
wow.
you feel like, oh man, your adrenaline, the adrenogenic effect that happens, and the freak outness. I'm waiting just to appear with, because if you've ever had, anybody who's had a pacemaker defibrillator, and I'm sure Trish, your dad, if he was around, can attest to it. I mean, it's like getting kicked in the chest by a mule.
Yeah. Yeah.
If people have gotten shocked by, your electrical outlet in your house, that's a little tingle. I'll go stick my finger in the socket right now. It's not a big deal.
Well, but you kind of compare it to when they're, when the staff is actually trying to shock the heart and they're telling everybody to clear.
Yeah.
And here you've got this internal thing that's going off.
Yeah. And I wish it would, I've learned the feeling that happens, and I begin to brace myself, preparing for it. Because I do have, from that 2012 incident, I do have some PTSD.
I was going to ask you
about getting shocked. So yeah, it's not fun. I wouldn't recommend it. But if everybody works with electricity, if you've gotten bitten by 220, working on some 3-phase electrical, any electricians out there have gotten zapped by that, it'll make your arm hurt for a week. And this originates right in the center of your chest. I don't know what the correlation is to wattage. I can't remember, but my device will shock me using 40 joules. 40 joules, that's what it charges up to. Well, anyway, if you're getting a weird rhythm, it tries to pace you out. So the pacemaker will send signals to try to trick the heart to calm down. If that doesn't work, then it gears up, and then it delivers the therapy, the shock therapy.
Well, and then for every time it does go off, you're also draining the battery. So then now you're looking at another surgery to go back in and replace the battery.
Yeah, because they tell you it's 8 to 10 years is the normal battery life. I seem to be on a 6-year cycle. It was put in 2006, 2012, 2018, and the last time I had it done, thank goodness I had a good doctor then. They did it with one surgery at the end of 23, December of 23. One surgery, so that was the last time. So I'm good for till 29 or 30. But I believe, and I know, like I know my own name, at some point I will be able to have this thing removed from my body, and I have to deal and live with it. I'm not sitting around waiting for a med bed or something like that. If that happens, great. But there's other things that I can do, and that I am doing to take control of my whole situation. So this year, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because, you posted and I was like, wow, an area that we hadn't even talked about, because you just found out about this connection with your thyroid, right?
Yep.
How did you find that out?
Through my own research. I had, so this back up a little bit. When I started with this new cardiologist, they did a full panel of blood work. And back then I found my TSH number, thyroid support hormone, was high. So he suggested I go see an endocrinologist. And so I did back then. This is, I'm still, behaving as the normal compliant patient. This is, right at the beginning of my rebel phase. So, but they put me on, went through the whole deal, the levothyroxine, and got my numbers started to come in line. And then all of a sudden, this endocrinologist decides to retire or move away or something, not practicing, not seeing any more patients. And there is a severe shortage of endocrinologists. So I just said, that was my rebel phase. I was like, well, F it. I don't need all this. I'm not going to take this stuff forever. So screw it. I just turned it off. Just did it out of my mind. Didn't even think about it until these VT episodes start happening this year. Got some additional blood work, saw the TSH, and then I started digging in. And I found out there is a direct correlation between the thyroid function, your T4 to the T3 conversion. It affects every system of your body. And there is a direct correlation link to thyroid malfunction and cardiac situations, especially electrical system of your heart, that if you got a messed up thyroid, your heart can be messed up. Well, this is what pisses me off about this whole allopathic medical system is these specialists, they're so myopic in their views. My cardiologist, when I mentioned that to him a few months ago, he's like, I'm a cardiologist. You need to go talk to somebody else about that. There's no connection. La, 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 right? Yeah. La, 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 I can't hear you. So I was like, screw that. So I even dug in deeper into the research and then the blood works. And so the only reason, and I'm going to say that I'm not giving medical advice to anybody. This is just my own personal journey that I've been through. But you can't trust these guys as far as you can throw them. And even today, I had a big fight with the lab. But anyway, the cardiologist, I go into the hospital a couple of weeks ago and the reason I went in, this is me hacking the medical system because I was having these VT episodes. I had an appointment to go see the nurse practitioner at the cardiologist's office on a Friday morning. But because I know the game and how it's played, I roll into that appointment. He's going to give me a script to go get labs. And I also wanted an echocardiogram because it's been forever since I had one, 2018 or 2019, to see what was going on. If there, so I needed more data, more information, these tests. So I said, well, and then it could be weeks before I go and get this echocardiogram, get scheduled and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, screw that. So I decided before the Friday morning appointment, Thursday night, I go into the ER. And I said, and I presented as having chest pains, these VT things. I knew they were going to admit me. So I got my blood work done. I got my echocardiogram done. I talked to my electrophysiologist and we had a plan. And all right, I'm out of here. Less than 24 hours, I was in the hospital. That's the only reason I went to the hospital was to expedite the tests.
Wow.
So that I could get the data that I needed. Otherwise, it could have been a month or two before I was able to figure anything out. So this is how I've hacked the system. And now I'm not pro doctor, I'm not pro medicine, but there are times when certain medications can be beneficial, right? I am using right now 2 meds to stabilize my physiology until I can figure out something else. Mm-hmm. I know I'm on a beta blocker and I'm taking the thyroid stuff, the levothyroxine, to kind of stabilize my system, kind of as a band-aid, as a bridge, till I can get more data and then figure out what I need to do to fix it from a natural, holistic, standpoint. I don't plan on taking these meds for the rest of my life. I won't take these meds for the rest of my life. I will figure it out.
Yeah, it's a little scary to hear that your cardiologist isn't trained or doesn't know or doesn't want to talk about the correlation between heart health and the thyroid.
Not surprising.
In the hospital, I'm sitting in the hospital after he comes in. I'm sitting there all day. He finally shows up around 5 o'clock and we're having this discussion. And I tell him all the information I found out. And he somewhat acknowledges that. He says, and I says, well, why can't you just, give me some levothyroxine or, give me something to fix my thyroid or, work. This is what I want to do. I didn't want to add another doctor and this and that. So he said, no, his exact words, no, I'm going to stay in my lane you need to go see a endocrinologist or a primary care physician. And that was another thing that pissed off the rounding doctor or the attending physician, because I didn't have a primary care physician. I fired that guy a long time ago because he was a twit. I stopped going. So this guy comes in. I tell him what I'm finding out. My thyroid's messed up. I probably should see an endocrinologist while I'm in the hospital to get a consult, right? And like, no, we don't do that here. It's, the thyroid fix is not an acute problem. It's a terminology they use. So he said, "Who's your primary care physician?" I look at the guy and I said, "Well, I'm my primary care physician." And he went off, his eyes opened up like big saucers, and he started on this diatribe about habla with this and that. He basically said, "You're not qualified to make decisions about your own health." I threw his ass out of my room. I said, "You can go ahead and leave and don't bother about coming back because I don't need to talk to you. I'm only here for this and this. This is why I'm here, is to get these tests. Otherwise, you can go pound sand." And he got that pissed him off. I never saw the guy again. And so this is.
I have to share this with you. I just Googled. I just Googled heart health and thyroid connection. Basically, it says, and both underactive thyroid and overactive thyroid can significantly impact the cardiovascular system. So that's the first thing. And then it goes into detail. I mean, how is that not? It's flabbergasting to me.
I know. And I've already been to 2004. I started my cardiac journey, and it wasn't until 2020, so 18 years or 16 years later, that I even had a, inkling about a thyroid heart connection. It wasn't until this year that I really put the dots together and understood it myself, all the terminology and how the thyroid and the T4 to T3 conversion happens in the liver, and what it does, and it affects all of your systems. So for all these cardiologists, I mean, who knows how long my thyroid's been effed up?
Yes.
Right? Who knows? So I found a primary care, and this is to tell you how things have changed. I went from that compliant patient, right, wearing the mask, I'm a heart patient, this is what it is, woe is me, victim, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
To the rebel phase where I was like, screw you, I don't need any of this. Didn't know anything. But now I know. I have the knowledge. I've done the research. I understand the terminology. And it's taken me almost five years for my EP doctor to finally come around to respecting me, because before I was just a non-compliant patient. That's what he put in my files, because I wasn't taking the meds. He's a non-compliant patient. In his notes, my wife was able to obtain the notes. I saw his notes. The patient has an affinity for suboptimal holistic and natural treatments.
So shame on you, Bruce.
Right, I know. Sacrilege. I'm a blasphemer.
Wear that with a badge of honor.
But now, a couple of weeks ago, I had a phone call because I was still titrating my dosage on my carvedilol to stop these VT episodes. And I put a bunch of messages in their portal, and finally I was wanting to get some clarity or some direction. Hey, you think I should raise it up? I already knew I was going to be raising it up. I just wanted to have it official. I already, was going to be raising my dosage. And so they called me, and it was the doctor himself. We had a 30-minute conversation, and we talked about I researched everything. Maybe I'm on carvedilol. Maybe carvedilol isn't the right drug for me. Maybe we should go to metropolol, or there's another one called something benitropolol or something. There's 3 other ones. And after all the research I did and looked at the studies and all that stuff for my particular situation, staying on the carvedilol was the right thing. So I'm laying all this out, using all the terms, the proper medical terminology. And by the end of that phone call, he asked me, the doctor that previously said I was a non-compliant patient, well, what do you want to do? That whole conversation was more like 2 colleagues bantering, trying to figure out what to do, than it was a doctor, trying to dictate to me what I should do with my health. And so at the end of the conversation, He said, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I want to increase the carbidool to 25. I want to get on this levothyroxine to get my thyroid back in line and see if that can change, since you're not willing to do it, change any of my heart stuff and see if I get everything in line, if everything, mellows out. And he's like, sounds like a good, and then I mentioned about an ablation. And I didn't know much about ablations. I know they use sound and stuff and, can reroute some electrical stuff. But anyway, he said, well, since you're so into research, because he knows I come prepared. Since you're so into research, here, I'll give you this. He said, write these down. I'm writing feverishly. He gave me the exact 5-step process that he uses, because he's one of his specialties as the electrophysiologist, the EP doctor, is ablations. So he gave me the whole thing, and I've been researching the whole thing, and that could be a root cause fix for some of my VT stuff, rather than just masking the symptoms with a medication.
Yeah. Yes. That's
So-
Ablation of the thyroid?
No, of the heart. So the
Okay,
heart,
okay. I was
heart has there's scar tissue in the heart from the heart attack, and then there's some halfway kind of alive tissue, and that it's called the isthmus. And what happens is the electrical signal that makes your heart do all the pumping and this rhythm and all that stuff, it gets into that isthmus, that halfway live tissue, and then it really slows down. It kind of gets lost, in the scar tissue, and it kind of freaks out. And that's what causes the VTs, or even AFib. It can cause AFib as well.
That's where I was going.
Yeah.
That's where I was going with it.
There's two main, from a layman's standpoint, two main functions in the heart. It moves the blood, right? From the plumbing standpoint, you get the blockages and, hardening of the arteries and all these different things. And then there's the electrical system. And, I've moved on from I don't have any ischemia. That's what they call the blockages in the flow. I don't have any new ischemia that was confirmed through testing, but I'm still having these electrical problems. So so they can take, what they do is they take sound frequency, sound waves, and they'll actually kind of burn or, block and redirect some of the electrical signal, the pathways that the electrical signal follows, so I don't have the VT. It doesn't get lost in the scar tissue. So that's the layman's version of what an ablation is. Even David, I don't know if he's had it yet, but Nino recently was diagnosed with AFib, and after the Vegas event, and he was in the hospital.
Yeah, that's what. Why are so many people getting AFib? My mom had it. She had to go through she did the 2 shocks, and I think she had 2 shocks, then the ablation, and then the shock again. And it seems like, I don't remember hearing AFib, the term AFib, in this kind of condition until like the last few years.
I'm not a doctor giving him, but it has to do with there's lots of environmental factors, stuff that's in the air, that's in the water, and the stuff that they call food that they're trying to sell us. They want us to eat. It's in it can be cause medicines. It could have, people could go the entire life, like I did, almost 20 years with cardiac problems, and not one freaking person decided to look, hey, maybe your thyroid's effed up. There might be some other situation. That's why it's so important that I'm encouraging people to do, just because I'm not anybody special. Anybody can do this.
And that's so funny that you say this, because I have for the last 20, 30 years thought that my mom had a thyroid problem. And she said, no, I go and they check my thyroid and they say I'm in the normal range. And I had a friend of mine who had thyroid issues, and she said, no, she needs to go to a specialist because the range is different. And if she's having these other symptoms, she's got to push. And I could never get her to push, but dollars to donuts, I bet all day long, that was the start of her issues. She had all of the symptoms, and then she gets the heart stuff and the AFib later. So this is really like connecting a lot of dots. And I'm just going to slip in here because I know we've got people in the chat that want us to ask you about iodine in relation to the thyroid.
Yeah, because Carol Maureen 13, she is very big on iodine.
I know Carol. She's my spiritual mother. And you had mentioned the doctors and the ranges, right? So here's the problem. This is what I have found out through my own personal experience. Again, I'm not giving anybody medical advice, but you need to know, right? First thought is the doctors, the endocrinologists, the specialists will only look at your TSH number and your typically the free T4, right? Those are the two main ones. If those are in line, oh, you're fine. You're all you got some mental problems. It's all in your head, right? All these different symptoms, the brain fog and this and thing, the cold feet, the hair loss, all these different, the normal symptoms, what they attribute. Right, the dry skin. Yeah, I mean, my skin sometimes I look like a freaking alligator. It's just so dry. So anyway, but that's where they drop the ball. And then the normal ranges, that's all they look at. It's those two markers. But then you got to look at the T4 to T3 conversion, because T4 doesn't do squadoosh. It basically just travels in and goes. This is layman's stuff. Most of the T4 to T3 is what your cells need, right? And that conversion happens in the liver. And so if you're not converting the T4 to the T3, and then your cells are not getting the proper effect. So you need a full, not just a TSH and a T4, you need a full comprehensive thyroid panel of blood work to get the data. And as far as the supplements, iodine is a mechanism that is needed. Most people, can help. It helps. Iodine helps. Selenium is another thing that helps with that stuff. But every person's situation, physiology is different. For what I am dealing with, iodine doesn't help me. I've tried. It doesn't do anything. And that's one of the things we have to be careful for. And that really, really gets me, it got my blood boiling. When I was doing all this research on the thyroid stuff over the past 3 months, all of a sudden, these tracking devices, these listening devices that we all carry around with us, my Facebook feed, the Reels feed, was just filled to the brim, video after video after video of some snake oil salesman selling you something in a little dropper bottle that says, oh, yeah, levothyroxine, it's poison, you're this and that and the other. And that I've seen multiple videos using the same exact script, but they use it's AI bullshit. And they got fake people, fake doctors pushing this snake oil stuff, $47 in a bottle, and it's going to fix you right up. Maybe, maybe not, but right. And people are just so desperate. They're whipping out their credit cards, buying this crap, and then they're still having issues because they're not really following what their body really needs. And to follow and find out what your body really needs, you do need proper data, not just symptoms. That's why I use the medical system right now. I'm using them to be able to get, because I can't get the blood work. I can't, get the diagnostic tests. I can't roll into a place and say, hey, I need this. No, you got to play the game. And some of the stuff, these functional doctors, these integrative, doctors, they're doing fantastic. Naturopaths. I actually got an appointment with a naturopath doing a full workup on me in a couple of days. But they're not covered under insurance, and the system is so freaking expensive. I was looking at a functional cardiologist, called around to see what it was going to be. One of them told me it was for telemed stuff, only in Zoom, $1,500 for the initial visit, and then $750 for the follow-up. There's also now a big push, and I'm not poo-pooing any of them. One of my good friends is part of the founders of these things, but these PMAs, private membership associations, where they have a group. You pay a membership fee to have access into the doctors, and some of the doctors are covered under insurance plan. They've worked out a way with the coding and stuff like that. So I looked into a few of those. But I'm going to go my current path and see how it works out. But the supplements are fantastic, but you got to know some of them can do more harm than they do good. I was taking most people would say a benign supplement, nitric oxide booster. Me as a cardiac patient or somebody with cardiac issues, nitric oxide is in your blood is what makes your arteries softer, open. It's a vasodilator, so it gets flow better. It's like sounds good. It's a vitamin supplement. L-arginine, L-citrulline, those are the two basic building blocks that makes the nitrous oxide in your system. But I started taking that, and boom, my heart did not like it at all. That was one of the triggers of my VT storms was that supplement. As soon as I stopped the supplement, within several days, my VT storms almost stopped. So I mean, you got to be people with significant susceptibility to things need to be careful about supplements. You just can't start dropping selenium. If you take too much selenium, it can become toxic, right? You got to know what your levels are and stuff.
Yeah, and I think with all of this AI and information that's at our fingertips, I know it's doctor's worst nightmare for us, right? To do that, but I think this is also a turning point for us too. That we have to not always just take their word. They're great doctors, they're great surgeons, but we also we have to do our own due diligence because they can't know everything. They've been trained in American Medical Association, and that is purposefully not giving us sometimes the best information. And so it's we just you have to empower ourselves.
Right. And the only way to do that is with information, right? You got to stop thinking that they know all the stuff. You got to retrain your brain about, and learn, spend the time digging and researching. And it's freaking boring as reading through some of these studies. I don't even understand and can't pronounce half the words that I'm reading, but I can get, and then AI, like you mentioned, it's a tool. Right now, there are so many people now in today's world, even within the patriot truther type movement, that are poo-pooing AI because no, it's the next thing to transhumanism. You're going to wake up one day and Elon Musk is going to be there putting a Neuralink chip in your head, right? That's just BS. It can go that way. It's a tool. It's just like a weapon for the Second Amendment. It's a tool. It depends on the hands of the people that it's in.
Yeah.
How that tool is used. And I use AI for a lot of stuff. It's helped me learn. I mean, I take some of these big studies that I've come across about, the connection between statins and Alzheimer's and neurocognitive diseases. I don't understand. That's all Greek to me, right? I haven't spent hundreds of thousands of dollars learning all these stupid Greek words or Latin words. So I plunked that study into AI and it says, what is it? Give me a summary of this thing and teach me like I'm a fifth grader. And it breaks it down super. I'm like, it's super easy.
It's so true.
That's some of the tools that you can use, and like you said, you can't trust it completely because it's still pulling information from a faulty system.
Right.
And you mentioned the doctors. I don't put a lot of the onus or a lot of the responsibility of the doctors if they had true and good intentions to want to help and heal people. It's the problem is in the whole allopathic system taking over, like you said, American Medical Association, the Rothschilds want to use petroleum products to make these pills so that they can, take everything that God made. That's evil. Can't do that. That's a bunch of quackery. Even going back into the 30s, that movie Reefer Madness, right? That, as soon as you smoke a joint, you're going to go out around and kill all your friends. That was a propaganda piece that was paid for by the big pharmaceutical industry. Come on. Yeah. So the transformation that's happened for me, now that when I show up, my condition hasn't really changed, but I'm the one who's changed and I show up differently. So the 5 years that it took me to basically train my cardiologist, how I am. And we have now, used to be when I rebel phase, it was an adversarial relationship. Now it's more of a partnership. And they're asking me, well, what do you want to do? Yeah. That's a complete, and here's how I show up. I could share.
Bruce, you're training your doctor just like you're training your own AI.
Absolutely. 100%. Here's the thing. it's taken me, because I went through that rebel phase with this guy. Now I show up. I got a spreadsheet that goes back to 2016 of all the labs and blood work that I could find through all the different portals and everything. I've compiled it into a spreadsheet. So now I can see patterns. I can see, trends. I show up with my spreadsheet of my blood work. And then I also, every time I go to appointment now, I show up with a patient briefing document. And so with the patient briefing document is an AI gave me this idea. It was Claude. It was actually Claude AI. So hey, patient, so it's got my, my brief history, what is currently going on, and then the labs that I believe I need to be able to get the data that I need to make the decision. And then what I'm looking for, my ask, what my goal is for that appointment. I know before I even walk in the door of my doctor what the outcome is going to be. I'm not waiting for him, in the past, roll up, oh yeah, I got this pain, it hurts when I do this. Oh yeah, here you go. Take these 2 pills and we'll see you again in 3 to 6 months. That's the way it used to be. In and out the doctor's office, 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe. Now my appointments are 30 to 45 minutes because I'm there, I'm understanding, I know the questions to ask. And just like a good investigator, you have to be watching these crime shows, investigators, detectives, you don't really ask questions that you don't really already know the answer to.
That's right.
So you're trying to gauge them. So 5 years for my cardiologist, he wouldn't give me the levothyroxine. He wouldn't deal with my thyroid. So I didn't want to go to endocrinologist. So I found another primary care physician. And luckily, I landed on one that was great. I show up with my spreadsheet. I show up with my patient briefing document. I say, I need this and this and this and this. And here's my history of my thyroid. I was on this. So we worked it out immediately. Right? Here you go. Here's your levothyroxine. Here's your blood work, scripts, whatever. So it took me 5 years to train my cardiologist and 1 appointment to train this PCP. My follow-up with the PCP after I had my initial blood work was, he says, well, since you're so knowledgeable and you're very informed, I'll let you go first.
Oh my gosh.
So I said, well, here it go. I said, well, here's what's going on. This and this and this. This is what's missing. Now there's another investigative piece I want to find out because there is also seemingly a newer, maybe not newer, but a more awareness of this cortisol issue. And so if you have a high cortisol, that can affect your cardiac situation as well and electrical system. So I said, well, I need to find out where I'm at, because I'm a very high drive type person. My brain is going, I'm a multitasker. I get easily distracted, squirrel and over, here or there. So my brain is always 5 steps ahead. So, this could be a cortisol thing, but I need testing to figure out where I'm at. So that was the piece. This time I went in my patient briefing document. I need to have this cortisol test. There's a couple of different kinds, and he gave me the blood work kind rather than the saliva kind. So everything's moving good since this whole last few months, and I've stopped these supplements. I'm still taking my normal supplements that I take that I believe has helped me get off a lot of the meds because that's super important. You got to find the right supplements, and probably piss off some people, but not every supplement out there is created equal.
Right.
Everybody says their supplement's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that's usually marketing bullshit. And I'll go ahead and mention it. I don't know how you feel. This is just my viewpoint, unpopular as it might be, but this wellness company, with Dr. McCullough, I'm not a fan because they're taking advantage of the fear and stuff with the whole ivermectin thing. So I'm not a fan of Dr. McCullough. I think he's an opportunist and making a shit ton of money off of the Patriot movement. And there's far too many grifters out there already that we have to deal with, people that call themselves a doctor that we think we're supposed to trust that aren't giving you the whole story.
Yeah, I just take everything with a grain of salt, and I think he's brought awareness to a lot of good things, and And I think that most of us aren't fearful anyway, honestly. And because that's why we're in the position that we're in, is because we didn't fall for the fear. Um, and
Well, I
you know,
think
and I think
they're still in that and within our movement. They're
I
still, the victim
I know,
mentality. If it wasn't for the deep state, or this and that, and then now, we're dealing with, this is going off subject, but now we're dealing with all these, paid, foreign paid or CIA paid influencers and everything
yeah,
that's going on. The whole Candace Owens thing and Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson, all these guys, doesn't make sense. And we've traded, knowing the government, media, and corporations are corrupt, that false narrative BS, looking for something else. And now we're being sold another narrative that I don't believe is completely true either. The truth is
right,
always somewhere in the middle. And that's
yes,
why it's so important to be connected to your creator, source, God, however you want to put it, to develop your intuition, your
agree,
discernment. You got to, do
yes,
your own research. Q talks about all the time, right? You
right,
got to expand your thinking, you know.
yes. And to your point, Bruce, everything that you're talking about is from going to the doctor to watching people, and you can't play the victim anymore. And individually, we have to get out of that. We've been so trained and so pushed to be the victim in everything, because that means we have no control, right? We know that's the opposite. We actually have all the control within ourselves to change things. And so we have to do our own homework with our health, which is what you're doing. Whether the Candace Owens, whether that whole group is part of just getting people who maybe don't like Donald Trump to actually listen to them and hear things that maybe they would have never listened to if they had said that they like Donald Trump. It could be part of this whole psyop. We have no
Oh, no.
idea,
Right.
you
That's
know,
that's the thing.
but
We don't know. We can't
it's
verify any of that stuff. And we have to trust
and
ourselves.
yes, and that's what we have to do. Trust ourselves and just take everything and just take it, but don't absorb it, and just understand that. And I always go back to, again, just like you said, our connection with God is what is driving us, why we're here, and why we're going to get out of this incredible inverted society with which we've been living. We're going
Oh,
to
for
get
sure.
out of it because
Right.
it is God led. And that I always keep my eye on that, and know that these other things with this fifth generation warfare and this psychological operation, Bruce, the thing that has been so fascinating to me, and I have to say, Ornella, a hair therapy, sent me this fella who completely go diagnoses or looks into uh oh the Truman Show. But the guy who does it, I can't remember his name. I have to look it up. He's an expert in psychology, and everything is psychological. Everything is psychological. Everything. And you know what's crazy? I have to just go down this one rabbit hole, you guys. The one thing he says, the thing that we spend more time on, 4 hours a day. You know what you never dream about? Being on your phone.
Right.
So something that you spend so much time on every day, you don't dream about. Do you all dream about being on your phones? I've not, he said he's never met anybody because it's not real. This isn't what matters.
Right.
And so, but we psychologically feel like we can't be without it. I mean,
Oh, I
so
know.
when you start going down these psychological things, you're like, "Whoa." It's
Oh,
just
it,
it's
it
kind of
goes way deep. I mean, I'm digging into some stuff right now that I'm starting to resonate a lot more with. And it's considered like crazy, like woo stuff, the whole simulation theory and timelines and craziness.
yes,
I'm digging into that as a side hobby. But what you had mentioned is we have to be our own best advocate, whether it's our health
yes,
and our
yes,
relationships. And I've said, I don't know, I said this a few years ago, and this has been the problem when we were narrating the apocalypse about all the corruption in the government. The founding fathers had intended us to be self-governed, right? But the problem is we have outsourced our own self-governance for so very long. We don't have
right.
a flipping clue what really self-governance really means. right?
That's right.
And so we're just starting to figure this out as we
Yeah.
break free out of the matrix, as the veil is thin, the scales fall off, however you want to describe it.
Yeah.
As we're trying to find our footing, but it has to start, in our mind and our heart.
Exactly.
Well, people are still doing it, but a few years ago, the whole sovereignty, thing, you could
Right.
file some paperwork and you don't have to pay taxes anymore.
Yeah.
That was a psyop. But I said I don't need to file any paperwork. I'm already sovereign. I've
Yes.
made a decision in my
Right.
mind and in my heart. I am
Right.
sovereign. There isn't
Yes.
anything that these people can do that's going,
Right.
to affect me.
Yeah.
So we gotta get back to that, coming back within, because up until this point, it's all been about the disclosure, what's going on outside, how the government has lied to us, our history is BS. It's all been about external stuff. And I believe that we are in this phase, the shifting, for those of us that have been awake for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and many people way longer than me, and they're further down the road than I ever will be. But we have to, you mentioned taking some time off and unplugging. We have to do that. That is a requirement. Any people in a military type of situation always has to have R&R. If you're always out there on the front lines and the bullets and the arrows and everything zinging by you, you're going to get wore the F out and you might get injured. You might need to recuperate. So unplugging from this stuff, as much as I hate to say it, most of social media is BS. There's lots of bots and trolls. Your people that you're arguing with on social media, it's probably a bot farm somewhere in China or the Philippines.
Yes.
You've seen those pictures of like 500 phones all up on a wall, and you got one little China guy back there, typing in stuff, fighting with people all over the world. I think I don't know if it's true. I heard a number somewhere around 51% of the people we fight with online are bots and trolls. They're not even real people.
Well, psychologically, that's the point, right? Because they have to keep us fighting, because it's too dangerous if we all think that what you just said, that none of this, we understand that they can't control us because it's all here in our heart. That's the most dangerous person that there is for the people, the powers that were, I'll say.
Yeah.
Because we're not controllable. And there's a lot more of us than there are of them. That's for sure. And so I want to take people to, everything that you've been through. You're using it now, and that knowledge and that inner peace that you have and all that you're doing. I want to show this because you're offering something, this unleashing excellence. And I love that. And it's a brucepoppy.com. Give me a little overview about that.
Like I said, well, this was a system, or not, I call it's a framework. And it's how I have been able to use myself to change my identity to become who the true Bruce is. Because back, this message, I was crying out because I was fed up with everything that was happening or not happening. I was crying out. It's like, well, how do we get through this? How are we going to get through this? And so the word came to me was connections. And I was like, okay, that's great. Flesh it out. It did flesh out over a couple of days. But the number one connection, like we've talked about, is being connected to our God, creator, source, universe, whatever you want to call it. The second connection is we need to be connected to ourselves. Because like I said, I don't know if I said it in the beginning or when we were talking before, but God doesn't make mistakes. We are all children of God. We all have the excellence. Everything that God is already in us.
Yes.
So we have this excellence, the God excellence inside of us. But the problem is it's not unleashed. It's buried from all the fake identity stuff, the wrong thinking, the programming. So it's still there. We just need to unleash it. So the system is built on 3 pillars, and Burn the Mask is all about identity. It's finding out who you really are, not who my wife wants me to be, not who your job or career, anybody else. Who is Bruce at my core? So you pull back all these fake identities and get in touch with your true self. And then the second pillar is unlearn to unleash. We got to change the way we think. If we think that we're going to be able to get out of this mess that we're in with the same thinking that got us into this mess, we're sadly mistaken.
Right.
That's a definition of insanity. I think Mark Twain said, "Oh, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a
Right.
different result." And that's the formula for creation, is from thoughts. Anything that we see was a thought at some point, and it created some emotion, which created some action, and then the action part is the forge. But then the action gives you the results. So if you don't like the results you got to work it backwards. What's screwed up? Is it the bad actions? Is it your bad emotions aren't in control, or is it bad thinking? So the unlearn to unleash is all about mindset and beliefs. And then the forge, that's the thing we do every single day. I talk about reps, the tiny, smallest thing. We always set goals, first of the year, new me, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And then you step on the scale the next day and you haven't lost a pound. You said, "I'll screw it up. There's no way I can do this." You give up. You got to look at it differently. I don't set goals. I set standards. And I do a rep is the very smallest action that I can do that's going to move me towards that thing that I want. Doesn't matter what it is in what area of life. The smallest thing I can do, just a 5-minute thing. Do that, and that's a win. Then builds self-trust. And once you build self-trust, because we've tried stuff, didn't work out, and so every time we do that, we lie to ourselves and we lose trust in ourselves. So we think, "Oh, I'm not smart enough. I've never been. I'm just not that person.
Right.
My family has never done this, or I didn't go to college." There's all these other reasons, that we put on ourselves. So we just do one tiny small rep. That's what I call a rep. And you do that one thing, and then the next day you build a consistency chain. Do that rep, and as you build self-trust, that builds confidence, so that you can step out and do a bigger thing. Maybe the next rep is a little bit bigger, a little harder. And we do it little by little. I want to be just a fraction, a tiny percent better tomorrow than I am today.
Exactly.
That's the goal. I'm not going to change my life overnight. This journey of my health journey is a perfect microcosm of all of our journey, in this place, whether it's in a relationship or business or anything. As we started off, we didn't know, we were in this bad place, and then we learned a little bit, maybe get rebellious, and then we learned some. It's a progression. It is a journey. They say success isn't a destination; it's the journey. Exactly. And so, everybody wants the mountaintop experience, but they don't want to do the hard work that it takes to get to the top of the mountain.
Yeah. And exactly. And that makes it even that much sweeter, though, is the process that you have to go through. And you're at the place now where you're passionate about it. We can all hear it in your voice, and your strength about it and your commitment to it. And because you've been through it and you see that it works.
Well, that makes me, I think that's my superpower, is my authenticity. And I got zero qualms about ripping my heart open, ripping my life open, laying it on the table. I'm not one of these guys, a guru. I don't have it all figured out by any means. I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut. But I've been through, and I have used this framework in my own life, and I've been open about it. Said, this is what I'm doing. This is how it's working for me. You can do it too. And so that I encourage everybody to look inside yourself. The universal laws, everything's connected. You got to go within. That's where the answers lie. They're not external. Everybody's looking for some extra. What they're looking for, Trump, the military, the white hats, to ride in on a white horse and save the day. And it's always been throughout the Q drops and everything. It's been about you and me unifying and getting as many people as we can to unify and start pulling the rope. The very last Q drop before they started redoing again was the link to the Twisted Sister video. And all through that video, are you ready to finish what we started? Right? Mm-hmm. It's time for action.
Yeah.
We have to be the ones to rise up and unite. We're still, that's what pisses me off about the whole conservative, Republican, GOP, whatever label you want to put on it. Is the Democrats, the Democrats, as Trump calls them, they're always united. They always are pulling the rope in the same direction. They're a very small percentage of what's really going on in the country. But most of the conservative side, we're too busy. We're really good at the circle firing squad, right? We're too busy fighting on X, or, mostly X recently, fighting over who's right, who's got this, who's controlled opposition, who's being paid, who's a CIA op. We're all fighting instead of uniting behind the common thing of restoring the republic, the way that the founding fathers intended it to be. But we're all worried about the Tyler Robinson case, and is the FBI pulling another one over our eyes, and it's a government cover up, and he's a patsy, and the whole everything.
Right.
It's just it's drama, and it's distracting us from what we need to be, and that's go within and be the best person that we can be, so that other people can see the light in us, and we expand the tent that way.
That's exactly it. And I love that you said that, because Tricia and I feel the exact same way. And I actually put a clip out. We had on Donna Brandenburg last week, and the clip she said says exactly that we have to unify as Americans. This whole other thing. The Democrats, they were always all together because they were equally bribed, so they were equally
Yeah.
or so they had to do it, or blackmailed, or whatever the heck they were. So do you want to say something, Tricia?
No. I'll go on and on. Don't get me started.
Well, let me just, I wanted, this is going to be a change, but I wanted you to hear this, Bruce. So, because we all have our superpowers, right? So a lady contacted me. Her name is Reverend Paula, and she has master's and doctorate, and I will share that with you. And she's a woman, an older woman, who is so knowledgeable but so passionate. And she contacted me. She said, "You know what? I want to do something, no charge. I would like for those people who are isolated, who feel isolated. I want to be able, they can call me. I actually I want to talk to them, and so that they don't feel as isolated. No charge, nothing. I'm going to give you her phone number, but this is what she sent me. She said, "Dear Ellen, we met recently and had the greatest phone conversation regarding the truther movement, Trump, and the evolution of the human spirit at this time of the planet. I'd like to issue an invitation to your audience, which is the following. I'm offering a prayer heart line. This would be it's funny, she called it heart, and hearts on all caps after what we've been talking about today with you, Bruce.
Right.
This would be a message only phone line and I would return the calls the next day. So you would call, leave a message, and she'll return your call the next day. It would make it especially easy if the viewer would leave a time zone and approximate time that they're available. They could leave messages day or night. Here's the purpose for this endeavor. In my professional career, I have been a teacher, a behavior health therapist, a minister. I'm currently only doing private work for my home office. The ministerial certification was a desire of my heart so that I could provide spiritual outreach programs for anyone who needed human contact. I've been aware for some time that there are thousands of people who are isolated from family and friends regarding the topics that so many of us know to be true. Those could be COVID, Trump, and the White House, and the evolution of the human spirit on the planet at this time. Therefore, I would like to meet the needs of that group of people. My credentials are below, which I'll read. I'm proposing that during the first phone call, what she wants to do prayer. She wants to talk to you and talk about the things that are important to you. And she just wants to have a conversation with folks and what that all entails. She said, my goal is to keep everything as upbeat as possible, but I would love to understand the positions from which you're coming. Obviously, many of us have been hurt. Let's bring the joy back into our lives together. I'm creating an army of love to reclaim the peace. And it just starts with a phone call. She wants you just to give her a phone call. She said, so please just give it a try. I'll put her number up. She's got a bachelor's degree, a master's in behavioral counseling, a doctorate of divinity, non-denominational and interfaith spiritual outreach programs. And she is a Reiki master and a certified clinical hypnotherapist. And so it's Reverend Paula, and it's the number is on the screen. It's 623-329-8363 Mountain Standard Time. She wants you just to give it to people. You call, leave her a message. She will call you back the next day. She really feels like there's just still too many isolated people in this community. And she wants to just bring you joy, rekindle your faith, just give you someone to talk to. Whatever is important to you, she wants to be that connection. Whether you talk once or numerous times, it doesn't matter. And there's no trick to it. There's no, we're not selling anything. She literally is just a someone that has been a viewer and wants to do her share.
Awesome.
And how awesome or is that timing, Ellen, that Reverend Paula reaches out to us, and we are the show leading into the next show for the conspiracy therapist, Sean. We have a female.
Yes,
we have a female
that's what
Sean.
he does too. Female, exactly. And some people, but that's perfect because some people feel more comfortable speaking to Sean, and there might be some people more, speaking with a female. Who knows? But it's interesting. This really she was determined to get in touch with me so that she could do this. I mean, she was determined that this was what she's supposed to be doing. So I was more than happy. We've had conversation. And she's very enthusiastic, and I was just more than happy. She wanted to give out her phone number.
That's fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's kudos to her for doing that. And that's the thing, is we do need to be connected, because when I was crying out in 23, and that I got the word connections. There's 3 connections. Number 1, a connection to God's creator source. Number 2, getting connected to ourselves, and the third connection is getting connected to other people, right? Because people are still stuck in some of the COVID mindset stuff, the separation, the shutting down, the lockdowns, all this different type of stuff. When we were doing the truth tours, that was one of the most gratifying things, is to get out and meet the people, because it's real easy to sit in front of a webcam and rant, right?
Yeah.
And do all the things we do behind the. But when you're out there and you're seeing and be able to hug necks, and shake hands and hear these other people's stories about what they're dealing with and what they're going through, and how they feel alone, that their family has ostracized them because they wear a red hat. It's just insane that what's going on has affected familial connections, brothers and sisters. I mean, it's almost like the Civil War thing back, brother against brother.
Yes.
And we are repeating that to a sense. I'm not saying we're going to be going kinetic at any time, but
It's a bit biblical too.
it is. And so we just need to be prepared. And I said it, I think I said it before when we were interviewing me before, is that us early ones awake, this is our boot camp. We need to build ourselves up and become full of knowledge and power, so that when the next wave of people that are getting wakened up, because we're still in this early part of the D-class disclosure phase of this thing, we're not, I think, maybe, hopefully, we're moving towards the judgment phase of this thing, of holding some people accountable for all the stuff they've done, crimes against humanity and such.
Mm-hmm.
But it's our job that when that next wave of people come through, come awake, that we can come alongside them. And rather than have the attitude or mindset, I told you so, you should have listened to me 5 years ago when I told you about all these COVID, blah, 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 this and that and the other. Instead of, taking that type of, we come alongside and say, hey man, it's our, I've been there. I was right where you are. And this is how I've been able to do what I've been able to do. And this is why these certain things had to happen this way, so that we can, raise the, the vibration, the frequency of everybody on the planet. And that's what's going to change and push these evil ones even further into their holes, or end of a rope, however that ends up being.
Very much so.
Agreed.
Agreed.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, that's literally why we're here.
Because love is it, man. Love is the ultimate weapon. And light is 100% undefeated against darkness. Wherever light shows up, poof, darkness is gone. It's undefeated. The darkness cannot win over light. So we need to be the light. We're light workers, light seeds. all these different, terminologies that we've heard. It's all moving us towards the end. Nothing can stop what is coming. Is literal. It's not. It's a divine situation that there is going to be a. You can get into the woo of the 3D 5 things, separation of timelines, and all these different types of stuff. There's more truth in that than people give credit to.
Mm-hmm. And we all had to, just you were talking about your rebel phase, right? We all had our rebel phase. We had to go through that because otherwise we would have all been like, we told you, I told you his earlobes were different, you know? But we had to kind of become the peaceful, loving.
Yeah. Because I've gone through the same thing during COVID, right? When we see the people that drive around in their cars with a mask by themselves or riding a bicycle down the road in the middle of, there's nobody around and they've got the cup mask. And first off, you make fun of them, right? It's like, how stupid you are. You laugh at them, all these. And then you're like, now to the point I have empathy. I feel sorry for them. Because the
fear, if they're still in that much fear, I do too. I'm just like, I just stop myself. I'm like, wow, that must be very hard for them to be living in that fear.
Yeah.
We use it flippantly, but the whole MK Ultra brainwashing programming thing, these guys have been they've been masters at this for decades.
Yeah.
And so we think that the Democrats are all stupid. No, the people, the evil ones, the deep staters, the globalists, they've been running this playbook, and they're experts. They are masters of deception. And the fact that we all are woken up to the point. I mean, I was scanning through some headlines, or maybe it was a local newscast. They were talking about this cicada COVID. You've seen that one, the cicada COVID. And I just laughed. I saw, God, you're serious? And now they're here in Florida. There's this stomach virus bug thing with explosive diarrhea. That's all over the news down here in Tampa, because there's some cases or something. I'm like, oh my God, these guys are.
They're getting outrageous with the headlines.
It is monkeypox, right?
Yeah. It's just like, let's try this and see who believes it.
And it's a thing. There's far too many people that still believe it.
I know.
I mean, and we can't, and you can't, you have to. Q was right. You can't tell them the truth. You got to show them. That's why we've been, and all this stuff that's happening, with these dog and pony show congressional hearings and stuff. That's not for you and me. I mean, that's the whole UAP, UFOs, the JFK stuff. That's all for the normies. It's starting to put that out and seeding their consciousness about that stuff, even though nothing's ever come of it, right? JFK files after 60 plus years are still not fully released. The whole Epstein thing, not fully released. So all this stuff is just putting out there into the ether to help, wake people up. And like this thing coming up Thursday with Trump's, thing, he's supposed to be dropping some intelligence about the 2020, foreign interference in the elections. So we'll see how, we'll see.
We've had so many of those. It's like,
I know.
The only thing that I feel, whether it's Thursday night, whenever it is, I don't know. But when I was up in DC at that summit and Tina Peters walked in with Peter Tickton, and they had just had lunch with Donald Trump, and they both came in, and Tina, and I put that on my ex, her little quote. She said, he's going to do something about it. And Peter Tickton also said that this is going to be dealt with. But, but he said that there's still a huge fight in front of us. But the two of them had some pretty good marching orders. So I do think that has to go down at some point,
Well, I think it has to come sooner than later. If it doesn't happen really fast, then we're going to be running into the midterms, and then there's them stealing again, and that could be Juan has talked a lot about the near-death experience for America, the gut punch. I don't think that's happened yet. Another little curious point of data that I have noticed over the past couple of months since that Fraud Finders Summit out in Vegas, Juan O'Savin now is doing many more interviews with his face out there in the front.
Yeah. What do you make of
He's
that,
not,
Bruce?
something's changed. there
Yeah.
has to be. I mean, for him to be incognito and hide, only show his boot or his ring, all these times. And now, he's been at many of the Truth Tour events. And he's always, we've always no pictures, no pictures, no pictures. Now he's done several interviews, face front. And our friend Matthew Geiger posted a picture with him, this morning or yesterday on Facebook.
Yeah. Well, some are saying that there's more than one.
I have seen every person that I have met in person has been the same guy. But I did see another picture. It was a few years ago. There was another event in Vegas. It was right near, there was a big movie, something coming out. And there was another event in Vegas, and there was a picture. I have it somewhere on my computer phone. That was it. Somebody was saying, "Oh, this is Juan O'Sabin," right? Shows up in the red Maserati and everything. But it was a different guy. It was not the same guy that I've seen. And I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn, but I do have my wife caught him adjusting his tummy.
I was going to say that can't be real.
He is wearing a fat suit.
Okay.
And my wife caught him, put his thumbs behind and kind of lifted it up. We were at the end of the Truth Tour 2 in Anaheim. We were driving a friend of mine back to his place in South Carolina, and then it was like 10 o'clock at night. He gets a phone call. He says, "Hey, Juan is having this meeting over here with these people, the local GOP. They were trying to do some stuff, and Juan's over there. You want to go?" I said, "Hell yeah." So we roll over there. It's like 10, 11 o'clock at night in this industrial complex. We roll in there. There's like 10 people. Juan is sitting there, and he, just laid back. He's like half asleep. He just flew across the country. We just saw him over in California. So he's over there, and my wife catches him out of the corner of her eye, and putting his thumbs behind the little thing and pulling it up while he's sitting there half asleep. That's my story.
Well, I really quickly, so Cheryl 45 MAGA, who's such a great moderator on so many shows, she did say, and we talked about this, but she said it succinctly: President Trump is giving a speech on Thursday evening regarding foreign interference in our election. So, we'll definitely see what that has to say. And on regards to Juan O'Sabin, before we head out, I messaged him because he was supposed to be on our tribute for Jordan Clark, and he couldn't make it. And so I reminded him, and I said, I would love to be able to do a special report with you. And he said, "Okay, but I'm really busy." And I'm like, "Okay." So I'm saying it out again so I'm putting it out in the ether,
Yeah.
So so we'll see if that happens. But anyway, yeah. At least he's texted me, "Okay." But anyway, so this has just been so awesome, Bruce, having you here with us. It's you really are just an amazing warrior in many, many, many ways. And is there any last thing you'd like to leave us with for 2026 and beyond?
I would just say, we have to stop outsourcing our own self-governance. And we have to figure that out. What it is for every single person is going to be different. What might work for me may not work for you. I'm open and sharing about my health journey because that's what I'm dealing with right now. There's many other areas in my life that I'm working on. Marriage stuff I can go on and do a whole seminar on marriage things. So every area of your life can be improved. You're not stuck the way you are. We can be better. And that's my whole message about the unleashing excellence. Excellence is inside you. It's just buried. We need to unbury it and then unleash that excellence and be all that the Creator has made us to be, so that we can move. And it's just about America. This is a global situation.
It is.
Move humanity into this next phase of our, for lack of a better word, ascension, our evolution, to be better in do things. So don't be afraid of, trying something new. You can do all that. And, I encourage people go to the brucepoppy.com. I do a weekly, I call the signal. It's more than a newsletter. It's a little bit brief story in my life, what I'm dealing with that particular week, and then how I use the UE framework, the Unleashing Excellence framework, of the distortion, the lie I used to believe, and the clarity, and then the move, the forge, what you can do. I share that via email. So you just go to brucepoppy.com. You can join I call it the Unleashed, the group of people that gets on the email list or whatever. It's, I don't spam. It's not a bunch of motivational hype stuff. That's why I call it the signal. There's no hype, no noise, just signal. And if you could try it out, if you like it, great. If not, unsubscribe and, see you later. Have a nice day.
Well, that's fantastic. And I admire you for what you're doing. You're just taking control, and we are all supposed to be doing that. And that's just what we're learning as we're continuing this journey, as you said. And I would appreciate so much the people who are watching on X and right here on Rumble, and the people in the chat. I was watching a guy on YouTube, and he said, if everyone could just like or follow, and I'll take a drink while I'm taking a drink of my coffee, just go ahead. He literally just goes, and I was like, okay, I'm taking a drink. I might as well just do it. So I was like, maybe I should try that. It must be a big deal to like or follow. I don't know. So if you could just hit whatever.
Yeah. Whatever you want, because it's important that we have, get the message out, and that helps with these algorithms that we deal with. The more people that smash that thumbs up on Rumble or wherever you're watching, or subscribe or follow, whatever they want to call it on the different platforms, that helps
leave
to
a
get
comment.
the algorithm, to get the algorithm to pick it up. And what's even more important than smashing the thumb is making a comment.
Yes.
Just one or two words. Hey, I love this. Or hey, you're crazy as a loon. You're all wet. Anything, doesn't matter. Good, bad, or indifferent. Just a comment in there will help with the algorithm, so that people like this show and everybody else that's out there working their tail off. Because I know it's not easy putting on these productions. I've been doing it since 2020, and it's not easy. So I give hats off to Tricia and Ellen for this show, and then the Truth Teller Tales as well. There's some really good stuff there, man. The concept, what you guys are doing here, I love it. And it's, getting behind the Truth Teller Tales. That's just getting behind the scenes. Who were these people, and what were they doing before they became, the truth or whatever they're doing now? And that's important. It's going to be historic. So do whatever you guys need to do to smash, like, share. That's even more important than commenting. So in orders of importance, smash the thumbs up. Secondly, make a comment. And the third, and this is the most important, is share this. Hey, if you know somebody who's dealing with heart or thyroid issues, share it out, And like I said, you can email me. I'll even give out my email. I'm not ready to give my phone number out yet, but my email is easy, info@brucepoppy.com. info@brucepoppy.com. If you email me, I'll help direct you as best I can. Again, I'm not a doctor. Don't give medical advice. I can maybe give you some guidance of where to look and how you can empower yourself to take control of your own health situation, because these doctors aren't going to do it for you.
Exactly. Well, this has been so awesome, and I appreciate it so much. So on our way out, I'm still figuring out how to raid over to another show. I think I got it right this time, but just in case, it's Conspiracy Therapist 17 is live right now, and he's a buddy of ours, Sean, and he has wonderful shows. So if it doesn't work for some reason, just head on over there and give him a like and all that stuff as well. So thank you. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Thank you, everybody who's been with us. And I have a lot. Truth Teller Tales has a lot going on this week coming up as well. We have next week on Labor of Love, we have Right Side, Rachel, Right Side Blonde is going to be on with us.
One of my favorites.
And on The View of Truth on Friday, we have on Dr. Scott Young. He's going to be on with us there.
I met him in person in Vegas just recently when I was out there. He's a very cool dude. Yeah.
Fantastic. And my Truth Teller Tales interview coming out this week is with Dr. Lee Merritt. And so we've got big stuff happening. So this is all great. So thank you all for hanging out, and amazing times. And just keep your head up and know that God's got this. For
Amen
sure.
to that.
All right.
Thank
Loved
you.
everybody. Yes.
Bye.
Bye bye.